Hello, everyone, and welcome to Spiritism X 2021. I'm Adam from Kardec Group, and I hope that you enjoy this two-day series of short talks which explore the theme of understanding our multidimensional journey. So here we are back for a third year of Spiritism X, and it is great to know that so many people who were with us for Spiritism X 2020 are with us again this year. And what a year it has been. Many of us have been able to adapt to the continuation of this pandemic. Many have returned to jobs, started new jobs, or even created jobs for themselves. Many of us have had opportunities to meet with friends and family after a very long absence. The fact that this pandemic has not disappeared within 21 days like some people originally predicted has meant that many of us are now taking time to reconnect with ourselves, to get to know and understand ourselves a little bit better, and to connect with spirituality and with life itself. And part of this has been the common question of, how do I fit in here on this planet, within life, within society? What was there before me, and what will there be after me? Hopefully, with the short talks we have arranged for you, plus the Q&A sessions, we'll be able to investigate these interesting topics and hopefully understand better our role here on Earth, the things we need to go through, and ourselves as a multidimensional being on a multidimensional journey. So, what is Spiritism X? Who is Kardec Group? And what is Spiritism? So, as I said, I am here from Kardec Group. Let me bring up my little presentation. There we go. Hey, so I'm here from Kardec Group, and we run two Spiritist groups here in the UK. We have the Spiritist Society of Windsor and Maidenhead, which started in 2015. And we have the Spiritist Society of Bicester, which started in 2019. In our public studies, we have open discussions to look at the Spiritist works, seeing how we can apply this vast knowledge to help us with our day-to-day lives and these journeys that we are all taking. Our groups are meeting online at the moment, and we are more than happy to have people from anywhere around the world joining us. Now, Kardec Group also produces a little podcast called Insightfully Speaking, where myself and two special guests, special co-hosts even, Anne Sinclair and Humberto Schubert, plus some special guests, look at the world from a spiritist perspective. And you can find all the podcasts on all the episodes on all the good podcast services, as well as video version on YouTube. Now, Kardec Group is a small charity, and we are involved in a few fundraising activities, which we're going to talk about a little bit later. And if you want to find out more about Kardec Group, about our podcast, our activities, our Spotify playlist as well, or if you want to contact us about joining our groups online, you can visit www.kardec.org.uk or email us at office@kardec.org.uk or visit us on Facebook, Instagram, and even Twitter. So, what is Spiritism X? Well, it's a series of short talks in a TEDx-style event, looking at all these different aspects of our lives through a Spiritist point of view. And this event is split into 4 parts, 4 blocks of talks, and there will be a roundtable at the end of each talk. So, what does the X in Spiritism X mean? It means exchange, the sharing of knowledge and experience with each other. So Spiritism X started in 2019 with the Spiritist seminar, Living Spiritism, which was a face-to-face event. And last year we had Spiritism X 2020. What a wonderful world. And you can find the videos of these events on the Kardec Group YouTube channel, as well as both, and for last year, both the entire live block and the individual blocks as well. And for those of you out there who may not know, what is Spiritism? Well, just briefly, It is a science and philosophy that can help us to understand many aspects of the world around us, our behaviors and our actions, and helps us to look within to help us with our intellectual and moral improvement so that we can progress along the spiritual paths that we have. It started in France in the 1800s with a French educator called Hippolyte Léon Denisard Rival, or better known by his pen name Allan Kardec, who investigated a very fashionable phenomena of turning tables. Now, from a scientific approach, he established that an intelligence must be behind this phenomena, and that if that intelligence is not through a physical living person, and not from someone playing tricks, it must be from the spiritual plane, from discarnate people, spirits. So under the pen name of Allan Kardec, he published various books, including the Spirits book, which itself is a big Q&A about all aspects of physical and spiritual life. Whoops, I do apologize, I went too far back. And he published various other books as well, including the Medium's book and the Gospel According to Spiritism. Now, the three main principles of Spiritism are, let's try that again. The three main principles of Spiritism are the belief in life after death, the understanding of communicability with the spiritual plane, and the belief in reincarnation. So hopefully the talks we have today and tomorrow will help to explain a little bit more about the Spiritist science, Spiritism, also known as the Spiritualist philosophy. And if you want to know more about Spiritism, please do contact us here at Kardec Group. Okay, I think it's about time for us to get on with our event. So let's have a look at what we have lined up today. Well, here in Block 1, we have Humberto Schubert from Brazil, Georgia Byrne from the UK, Flavio Zanetti from America, and Lolita Stein Johnson, also from the UK. And Block 2 will be at 4:30 p.m. UK time, and of course we will have Blocks 3 and 4 tomorrow. So how is this going to work? Now, as I mentioned, we will have 4 blocks of short talks, followed by a roundtable or Q&A session where everyone watching, so all you out there, can send your questions live for our speakers. And we will have a few other surprises for you, so make sure you stick around. And also we have our prize draw where 4 lucky people will win a set of Spiritist books. Now, we really want everyone to interact with us during the event. So if you have a YouTube or Google account, you can send your comments live via the live chat, which should be just about there on the left of the screen, or maybe below, depending on what device you're watching on. And, you can take that moment to say hello, to let us know where you're watching from. Send us anything you want. Send an hola, konnichiwa, salut, shalom, namaskar, or any other greeting that you want. And we'll try to say hello back to you during the event. And of course, if you have any questions or comments, please put them on the chat as well. And you can use the Kardec Group Facebook pages as well if you're watching there. And we have to ask, please, please, please give a thumbs up and subscribe to the Kardec Group YouTube channel, to our Facebook page, and to the partner channels who are helping us stream today. So the Irish Spiritist Federation, the British Union of Spiritist Societies, the International Spiritist Council, Spiritist Network, Rede, Amigo, Espírita, and the EspiritismoNet as well. So thank you. And we also must say a big thank you to all these other people who are supporting us for this event. So thank you all. Let's go now very quickly just to have a quick hello to see who's with us today. So I can see that we have with us, we have Jean Carlos, we have Gilda, Cesar, Camilla, hello, Maria Lucia, Soraya. Let's see who else. Charles Kemp, who will be with us later. Thank you for being with us, Charles. Emmanuel, Miriam, Sonia as well. We've got so many people. thank you for being with us so far. Please stick around with us. Please share this as well. Get more people to come and watch. We've got quite a few people watching with us, which is great. But no, it'd be good to have even more. So thank you for being with us. And I think it's about time for us to start with the talks. I think you've heard enough of me right now, haven't you? So the first talk that we're going to have today is with Humberto Schubert, who'll be talking about life after life, exploring the beyond. Now, Humberto Schubert is a Spiritist writer and lecturer from Juiz de Fora in Brazil, and is a co-host of Kardec Group's Insightfully Speaking podcast. Humberto is a lecturer in philosophy at the Federal University of Juiz de Fora. Humberto is the executive editor and publisher of the Primavera Spiritist Society, and is also the first person to translate G.E. Lessing's Education of the Human Race from the original German to Portuguese. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's with great pleasure that I pass you over now to Humberto.
Hi, Adam. It's always very good to meet you. And I would start by thanking you for all the organization of this event. Well, greetings to everyone. I will immediately start my presentation since we have very little time. And I would like to start by saying that this subject is very often addressed from the literary or artistic perspective. That means we usually do not see in popular media much about the philosophical arguments and the scientific evidence for the afterlife or the state of human persons after death. We usually see this through the lens of art, with a lot of imagination and metaphor mixed with what we can rationally expect. And in this presentation, I will I will focus exclusively only on the scientific evidence and the rational arguments for what we can rationally expect in an afterlife. So just a few moments. Well, these are very known pictures from Gustave Doré, who produced them for Dante's Divine Comedy. And we can see that in popular imagination and also in the highest cultural products about the afterlife, we have dramatically different perspectives about the destiny of the souls after death. So it's common and quite universal, actually, to expect that good people, good persons will come to a place where there will be happiness, never-ending bliss, and so and so, while other places may not be so fortunate. Well, Kardec in the Medium's book asks, are there spirits? And this is a very fundamental philosophical question for a book dedicated to the more practical and technical part of Spiritism, or the doctrine or the philosophy based on the contact with the deceased. So why would Kardec start with a philosophical question, especially in this book? Well, he explains that the main reasons why he uses or why he recurs to a philosophical ground before the technical issue is that if we have no answer for this fundamentally philosophical question, then materialists are right to claim that the ideas of an afterlife are nonsensical. And this is exactly how materialists usually answer to the question of afterlife, or the question of survival of the soul, or the ideas of immortality, which are quite popular. They're actually ideas that the majority of human population hold very dearly, actually. About 80 or 75% of humans do believe in an afterlife, or in some sort of continuation of life, of a psychological life, or a life of consciousness after the death of the bodies. So in order to reflect this tendency, we have to start by giving materialism a consistent answer about why spirits or souls are not contrary to science, or contrary to our modern understanding of the world. So it is key to demonstrate, not to argue about only, or argue for, but to demonstrate that souls and spirits are at least possible. That means not in contradiction with science, or the scientific mentality, or the modern understanding of the world. But the fact is that most, if not all, attacks against the idea of an afterlife assume that it is a religious invention. So religions somewhere in time created the idea of an afterlife, of punishment and reward, and so on and so on. While in fact, many non-religious people did believe in an afterlife, or in the survival of the soul in some form, just because they had significant experiences, or because they, as intellectuals, they were persuaded that it was the more rational option between annihilation of personalities and some sort of preservation of them. So in fact, we have empirical evidence of many sorts. We can quote or mention three main sorts of empirical evidence, and very strong philosophical arguments for the survival of the soul. Actually, the philosophical arguments are so strong that we can say without much timidity that from the philosophical point of view, immortality of the soul is already demonstrated. Well, among the suggestive evidence, we have to be very humble to mention them, because they are not absolutely conclusive evidence. They point to, or they suggest, that some sort of survival of the soul does exist, but it is still not completely conclusive. We can mention the narratives of apparitions, very, very frequent and recurrent dreams among all cultures, visions, encounters with the deceased, which are quite universal. You can find them among atheists, or theists, or animists, or whatever sort of human groups you can possibly imagine. Kardec gave to all this spectrum the name of mediumship, and mediumship would be the general faculty that allows all this sorts of encounters or phenomena. Well, we also have related cases of past life memories, or suggestive evidence about reincarnation, and we can consider the strongest points, or the strongest aspects of this source of evidence, the fact that both of them appear in all cultures without exception. They are very consistent. They are also epistemic challenging. What does it mean? It means that it is, from a scientific point of view, very difficult to explain them away without accepting that something very weird or very challenging, at least for a materialistic perspective, is happening in this phenomena. We also have out-of-body experiences and the more famous near-death experiences. Now, as a philosopher, I cannot accept the separation, the divorce between these two, because near-death experiences are nothing but a case or a chapter of the more complex book of out-of-body experiences. We can have out-of-body experiences without being close to death, like in the case of dreams, for example. They are very common. And also we have spontaneous activities or psycho experiences where mystics and ecstatic mystics and monks and every sort of people may have these experiences of detaching oneself from the body and having a more spiritual perspective about life. And what is interesting is that, again, these experiences are very consistent across cultures. They are not limited to a specific group. They seem to be very universal, very, very human. They are epistemic challenging. That means you can see and hear things that would be impossible from a physical perspective, or your body could not, in the state of cardiac arrest or in coma, your body could not experience that, but you still hear and see things that can be confirmed when you're already awake. A good thing about near-death experiences in particular is that they are very easy to isolate from fraud, because people are in a very, very controlled situation, while it is very difficult to control mediumship and memories of past lives, because they do not happen in a closed environment like in a lab or in a hospital. But near-death experiences usually happen in a hospital. So you have many testimonies about the state of these persons. Now, philosophy always produced arguments about the immortality of the soul or the survival, but we have some rather irrefuted proofs here, just to mention a few ones, as, for example, Plato's idea about the correspondence or the harmony between intellect and eternity or immortality. Leibniz very strong arguments about the impossibility of explaining the world, explaining the universe from a materialistic perspective. I would like to emphasize that these are quite powerful intellectuals. Leibniz, for example, was a scientist, a mathematician, a diplomat, and he invented the calculus with Isaac Newton. Well, Immanuel Kant argued about the absolute necessity of the idea of immortality and the idea of an afterlife, as long as along actually with the idea of God for morality. So in a quite irrefuted, and here I'm not claiming that these arguments and proofs, they are irrefutable, but they are irrefuted so far. In some quite irrefuted arguments, he demonstrates that we cannot be actually moral. We cannot be ultimately moral without believing that there is correspondence between happiness and moral order. And since it does not exist, obviously, in this life, it is rationally acceptable or even demanded that we expect an afterlife. So these philosophers are not talking about beliefs in an afterlife, but they are talking about rational expectation beyond, or at least stronger than the reasonable doubts that people may throw against them. And finally, Johann Fichte, who in my opinion gave us or presented the strongest of all arguments, basically claiming that it is impossible to justify any other sort of life that is not mental and not spiritual, because we have no experience about inanimate beings. We have no experience about non-mental life. So the idea of matter actually would be a very abstract idea, while our ideas about personalities and subjectivity and minds are much and far more objective, contrary to what people usually think. So I would end with this question: what do reason and evidence say about our future state? Well, provided this evidence and considering all the arguments about an afterlife, we can say that our ideas about the subject are capital to our moral conscience and behavior. It's suggested both by evidence and rational analysis of the subject. We can rationally expect that there is some mechanism or some sort of punishment and reward. You may call it, obviously, cause and effect, karma, or some similar form of fulfillment of the expected justice, because our reason demands, or requests at least, that there must be some sort of harmony between what we expect and what we see as justice in theoretical life and what is experienced in practical life. Well, happiness and unhappiness seem to play a major role both in the cosmic order and the form of afterlife that we may experience. It also seems to be a form of corporeal life. That means only the flesh dies, not the bodies. We still have some sort of psychical bodies. And as a consequence of that, Aristotle's very famous observation about the necessity of this union between body and soul, an argument that is very frequently used against the survival of the soul, because souls need bodies to manifest themselves. Well, this argument may apply to this state of an afterlife or a new life. Thank you very much. I hope it was not too rough linguistically and also theoretically. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Humberto. That was such a great set of reflections for us. It's great to hear all these different opinions from such a long time ago about life after death, about all these possibilities. So we'll come back to you later for the round table. So thank you once again for being with us, and we'll see you in a little bit. So, and remember, if you have any questions for Humberto for the roundtable, please send them in the live chat and we will get to them later, as well as any hellos that you want to send to us. And oh my gosh, there are so many people saying hello right now. And we've got so many people watching via the Kardec Group YouTube channel. Thank you for being with us. And don't forget, we really want you to like and subscribe. Please make sure that you like and subscribe when you can. That'd be so appreciated. Thank you so much. So, time for our next talk now. And we are going to be going with Georgia Byrne, who is going to be talking about Spiritism, a spiritualist philosophy. So I gave a little introduction to that before, but Georgia will be going into it a little bit more detail. So Georgia is from Southampton in the UK and is a member of Kardec Group. She is graduated in civil engineering with a master's in production engineering and works as a quality manager in the fibre optic industry. So, ladies and gentlemen, I will hand you over now to Georgia.
Good afternoon, everyone, or good morning or good evening, depending on where you are in the world. Thank you very much to the Kardec Group for this opportunity to take part in this event. That's an amazing event, and we have been looking forward to it for a long time. This is a very, very interesting theme, and Humberto, my sincere apologies because I am not a philosopher. So please do forgive, and the audience, please do forgive us if I am not as accomplished with my thoughts that I am going to share with everyone right now. So I hope everyone can see my screen. We thought that we would start this discussion about, if I go back, the spiritualist philosophy called Spiritism, by first understanding what Spiritism is. So before we even talk about the spiritualist philosophy or the spiritualist aspect of the Spiritism, I thought we should ask us first, what is Spiritism? And who best to tell us what Spiritism is than Allan Kardec himself? So we brought here a few definitions that Kardec gave us about Spiritism. The first one comes from the book called What is Spiritism? This was a book that was published in between the Spirit's book and the Medium's book. And in that book, Kardec says Spiritism is simultaneously a science of observation and a philosophical doctrine. So as a practical science, it consists in the relations that can be established with spirits. And as a philosophy, it entails all the moral consequences that result from such relations. So you see, especially in the basic books of the Spiritist doctrine, the books that were codified by Kardec, starting with the Spirit's book, we will see this approach in terms of understanding the relations between this material and the spiritual life, with an applied method, with a rational method, and not only understanding this mechanism of relationship, but also which are the consequences that come from us being in touch with the spiritual world. So that's one first definition that Kardec himself brings to us. And we will find in the Gospel according to Spiritism another moment when Kardec says Spiritism is the new science which has come to reveal to mankind by means of irrefutable proofs the existence and nature of the spiritual world in its relationship with the physical world. So Kardec, as a scientist himself, had this very structured method of approaching new knowledge, of testing hypotheses and proving or disproving that hypothesis. So that's the way the work that he codified was built over the scientific method. So not everything that came to Kardec's hands went or ended up into the Spirit's book, for example, or the Medium's book, all the other literature that we have from the codification. He tried and tested using scientific method to save the information that then was reliable enough and accurate enough to be considered as truth. But Kardec himself, having this scientific mind, he mentioned that that was the point of knowledge of that time. And if any of the points that he was presenting on those books at any time came in conflict in the future with any other knowledge that had been proven by science, by philosophy, he said, so please do abandon that old thought, that old teaching, and go ahead and follow that new learning from science and philosophy. So himself had an open mind and understood that the learning and the knowledge that we produce at a certain time is limited and is always evolving. And then further on, in the Spirit's book, Kardec says Spiritism is thus seen to be the most powerful auxiliary of religion. And if it be such, it must be acknowledged to exist by the permission of God, for the purpose of giving new strength to our wavering convictions, and thus leading us back into the right road by the prospect of our future happiness. So when we talk about the consequences of the relation with the spiritual world, is exactly what we are talking about. So we are going to touch some of these points in more detail in our next slides. So please do bear with me. Well, so we saw by what Kardec himself wrote in several different books that he codified, that the Spiritism is not a linear approach. Much rather, Spiritism presents us a multidimensional perspective. So we are multidimensional beings in a multidimensional journey, as Adam very well said at the beginning of this session. So to answer our deepest questions and this necessity we have to understand the world around us, we would need a multidimensional perspective, a doctrine that would allow us a multidimensional perspective. And that's exactly how Spiritism is built. So in a book, The Consoler, that was a work that started back in 1940, I believe, when this is a sequence of questions and answers. And they were answered by the spirit Emmanuel. Emmanuel starts saying that we may regard Spiritism thus symbolized as a triangle of spiritual forces. Science and philosophy link this symbolic image to earth, but however, religion is the divine angle which connects it to the heavens. So basically, we are not talking as an isolated approach. So the doctrine, the Spiritist doctrine, sees the world through these lenses, scientific, philosophic, religious lenses, in an integral way. Although Spiritism is not an organized religion, the religious aspect is exactly this link of our thoughts and our understanding with this superior force. So it's this multidimensional perspective that answer so many of the questions that we have in our hearts. And in such a complex world and reality that we live right now, we pretty much need all these lines of thought to support us. But this afternoon, we are talking about the philosophical aspect of Spiritism. So let's start understanding, why do you say that Spiritism is a philosophy? And if we start with a concept of philosophy, not brought from an original philosophical book, but I thought this was a concept that matches pretty much what we are trying to convey. So if we understand the philosophy as the rational, abstract, and methodical consideration of reality, so it's us questioning and trying to understand what's surrounding us as a whole, or of fundamental dimensions of human existence experience. That's basically what we find on the works and on the Spiritist literature. So just a few examples. In the Spirit's book, when Kardec asks, what is God? Question number 1, or question 132 of the Spirit's book, what's the purpose of spirit incarnation? Or in its chapter 5, why do souls have such a diversity of aptitudes, independent of the ideas acquired by education? Or in the whole works of the problem of the being, the destiny, and the pain that was produced by Leon Denis. That's particularly a wonderful, a beautiful book for us to read once we have read the codifications. Absolutely beautiful reading. So all these questions, one, are they rational? So are we trying to explain rationally a problem or a question? You'd say yes. Have they been built in a methodical way? We would say yes. Are they concerned about fundamental dimensions of our existence? Yes. So when we talk about Spiritism and all these questions that Spiritism tries to answer or explain or bring a new view, a new perspective over, we could say that yes, Spiritism is a philosophy. But we are saying here that's a spiritualist philosophy. So why is that? So why is this aspect of Spiritism as a spiritualist philosophy? So Kardec comes to our rescue once again, and he says, anyone who believes that something more than matter exists inside of us is a spiritualist. The Spirit's book contains the principles of Spiritism, which is generally associated with the spiritualist school, of which it presents one perspective. And I would like to make an observation here, because if we go and look nowadays, we need to remember that all these works from Kardec and the codification, they were produced halfway from the 19th century onwards. So many definitions that were applicable then, today are seen in a different perspective. So if today we talk about spiritualism or spiritualists, this word is much more today linked to an organized faith or religion. However, at Kardec's time, when we talk about spiritualist and spiritualism, that was exactly what Humberto was touching in his talk just a few minutes ago, is that perspective that there is something beyond matter. So when we talk here about spiritualist, is that a view of Kardec at that time in history, and now not the concept we very often now give to these words, because words are, and the meaning of the words is so dynamic. It changes as humanity changes. So every time we talk here in spiritualism and in spiritualist, we are talking about the philosophical approach or concept of spiritualism. So we can say then that Spiritism is a one perspective of spiritualism, as I believe that there is something above or beyond matter, but Spiritism is not a synonym of spiritualism. So they are not the same thing. So in a way, if we could represent this, we could say that spiritualism is, as a philosophical concept, is this great group of beliefs that come from thousands of years ago and from thinkers more contemporary to us too, that there is a principle and an agent beyond matter. But from there, we can see several schools, several thinkers, several approaches to what this could mean to us here on earth or after our experience, our material experience. So amongst all those different approaches, there is Spiritism. And what Spiritism tells us, amongst other principles, is that we believe in the interrelation between a material and a spiritual world. So not only the existence of something that's beyond matter while we are here on earth, while we have a material body, while we are in an incarnation, but also that something exists after that material experience, and not only that, that we can communicate and have a relation with that other spiritual world. So although this at the very beginning of the Spiritist studies was seen many times as some sort of amusement for some people. So the communication with the spiritual world became almost like something that you'd do to entertain yourself. The view of Kardec was, no, let's look at this phenomena and its consequences with a pragmatic, with a methodic, with a scientific view and perspective. And let's try and understand what these relations can bring to us, how they happen, and what we can learn from them. So, Spiritism. We thought we just mentioned in the previous slide that amongst other principles, we had the belief that it's possible to communicate with this spiritual world. So we thought we would also bring here a few other basic principles of Spiritism that Adam has very kindly explained to us also at the beginning of this session, of this block. So the first one is that God is a supreme intelligence and he is the creator of the universe. So that's one of the fundamental basic principles of Spiritism. We believe there is this supreme intelligence. We call it God, or we can call it another name that's a human necessity to name things and label things. But we understand there is the supreme intelligence that's the creator of the universe. Another basic principle of the Spiritism is that the spirit is an individuality, a distinct being. So we have that energy or that something that's beyond matter, but we believe that energy or that something that's beyond matter is a distinct being themselves. So we have this possibility of thinking, understanding, of feeling, and of interacting with reality, and that belongs to us as individuals. So it's not dissolved in the great whole when we live this material experience. We maintain our individuality. We believe in the soul as an incarnate spirit. So Kardec makes this distinction very clearly in the Spirit's book. So he was very concerned about making clear what was the meaning of each one of the terms, of the terminology that he was using, because we were basing everything else upon those concepts, on those definitions. So he took great care trying to explain what each one of these terms meant. So once everybody was on the same playing field, everyone was on the same page, he could then develop further his questions and his understanding of the material and spirit world and their relationships. So he explains the soul as the incarnate spirit. So the spirit is us individualities, these thinking and feeling beings. And once we are on earth, incarnate and utilizing this physical instrument, our bodies, we then call this incarnate spirit a soul. Another principle of the Spiritism is what Kardec calls the perispirit. We are not going to enter in detail on this because it's a vast subject to treat. But basically, if we have the material body and if we have this immaterial intelligence, how do they interact then? How can this immaterial intelligence act upon matter? So we also believe there is this connection between this immaterial intelligence and the material body, and this connection, this, let's say, this glue, if we could use this term, or this interface between this spiritual intelligence and the material body is the perispirit. But we can see a lot about this in the codification books. A good discussion on the spirits book, but other parts of the codification also discuss in detail the perispirit, and other books of the spiritist literature too. We also believe in incarnation and reincarnation. So this is another basic principle of spiritism. One is that the original status, or the place we come from, our real home and place of being, is the spiritual world. So that's where we come from. That's our real home. But in order for us to accelerate our learning, we come to the material experience, and that's called an incarnation. Is when we come to Earth or other planets where we can have a physical experience and we make use of a physical body. But we not only advocate there is the incarnation, but we also have as a principle of spiritism that we can reincarnate. So we successively go through these experiences, these material experiences, and each time we come via the reincarnation process, we experience new learning, and we bring with us back to the spiritual world that new learning that makes us, helps us progress in our journey, in our spiritual journey. So this takes us to the principle of spiritual progression towards perfection. So Kardec tells us that's actually our final destiny, let's say, is perfection. So everything we do on earth, here when we are incarnate, or in everything we do when we are back home in the spiritual world, is contributing towards our progression, towards one day being perfect, pure spirits. So these are just some of the basic principles of Spiritism as this spiritualist philosophy, but we have many, many more. And for those who would like to read a little bit more about this, please do have a look on the item 6 of the introduction of the Spirit's book. that has a full explanation that developed by Kardec with the inspiration and collaboration of the spirits on this topic. So this is basically the view we would like to bring to everyone, in this reflection of how Spiritism is seen under these lenses or under this perspective of the spiritualist philosophy. And to close our talk today, I just would like to bring two brief reflections. The first of them comes from Kardec. Apologies because it's a little bit long, but it's very, very much worth the reading. So Kardec says in the Spirit's book, in the conclusion of the Spirit's book, and that's in item 6, he says that believing that Spiritism derives its strength from physical manifestations during meetings, and that debunking those manifestations can bring about its downfall, it's to oversimplify this theory. So Spiritism, the basis of it is not on the manifestations. The manifestations is the phenomena we are trying to understand and explain, but that's not the core of the Spiritism. That's not where it lies. So Kardec goes ahead and says its strength lies in its philosophy, and particularly in its appeal to reason and common sense. In ancient times, it was the subject of secret studies carefully hidden from society. So all this relationship with this immaterial world, that's not something from the 19th century, from the 18th century, not even from the medieval ages. This comes from thousands of years, but throughout history, this relationship with the spiritual world has been on one hand, very connected with mysticism, and on another hand, because of that also, hidden from the general people like us. So it has always been covered with this veil of mystery. And then Kardec says today, there are no secrets, and Spiritism is out in the open, without ambiguity, mysticism, or allegories that would be susceptible to false interpretation. So Spiritism is that rational, beautiful spiritualist philosophy that's not content with the dogma, with the make someone to believe. So if you are to believe, it's because you understood. So the time has come, says Kardec, for the truth to be told and understood by all. So it's not to be hidden and be some privilege of a small group that will keep as a secret. It's to be open in the air, to be accessible to all. So everyone can read, can interpret, and can make their own minds based on what they have read. Far from being opposed to enlightenment, this revelation is intended for all human beings. It does not require blind acceptance, but urges everyone to take stock of their own beliefs. And as its teachings are based on reason, it will always be stronger than those who are based on annihilation. Annihilation. Sorry. So if we have the choice between believing on something that is capable of answering the deepest questions that are in our minds and our hearts, or maybe believing in nothing, we have the choice. And the choice is there for us to make. So one last reflection I'd like to bring as a philosophical, as a spiritualist philosophy. Spiritism is a doctrine of hope. Hope in the future, because we understand that there is something beyond this material life, that it doesn't end there. And this hope in the future can make us stronger. And for those who are interested in reading a little bit more how this philosophy has changed and carries on changing the lives of so many people, a good literature after you have gone through the 5 books of the codification, some other very interesting base books of the Spiritist doctrine, is having a read at the Spiritist Review. That's it's a collection of publications that Kardec issued for several years during his life here on Earth. And many of the contents of Spiritist Review ended up making part of some of the codification. We'll find tests on the Spiritist Review that are appear in the Gospel according to Spiritism, in the Medium's book, so on and so forth. But also in the Spiritist Review, we see that there are a few sections where people write to Kardec and they give their examples of how Spiritism, the impact Spiritism has made in their lives. So there is quite a lot of information on how people felt stronger because they found that hope in the future, that we come to meet again, those that we love so dearly and are no longer with us here in the material world. So Spiritism as a doctrine, as a spiritualist philosophy, it also gives us hope in the justice of God and the universal laws, because it not only questions, but it brings us answers on all these apparent injustice and the inequality that we find and that are so present in our reality today. And we start to understand rationally. We start to understand the whys of all these apparent discrepancies in life, in our material life, because we understand not only the present, but what might have been of the past and what might come to be in the future. So justice, the justice of God, the universal laws actually make sense. They are not a dogma. They actually make sense. We also find hope in the possibility of starting over and rebuilding our own paths ahead. So we are imperfect creatures. We make mistakes. We make mistakes all the time. And in our effort of being better creatures, we carry on in this learning process that will mean that many times we are going to fall and we are going to fall over and we are going to be disappointed. But because we have ahead of us that hope that we are on a journey progressing towards perfection, this gives us no strength to stand up, brush the dust on our knees, and rebuild our path. If we are not happy with what we have done so far, we can do differently. We can build a new story, and it's in our power. That's what's so powerful about the Spiritist doctrine. It's in our power, our free will, to change our future. And it's how we experience all the events in our lives and what we take away from them that is going to make our future a better future or not. So all of this is not because we were told so or because we were made to believe, because we found this dogma that we needed to accept, but because we read, we rationalized, and we understood. And in understanding, we regain control over our own destinies. So it's an empowering and it's a philosophy that can free us. It can free us and gives us the power to do with our lives and with our future what we intend to do, to be better people, to be better human beings, and to be better spirits in this long, long, long journey, this long path towards perfection. So that's what we had to share with all of you today. I hope it brought something interesting in this afternoon. And once again, thank you very, very much for this time, for your attention, and for this opportunity. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Georgia. That was very, very good and in-depth explanation about Spiritism, and I think obviously complements Humberto's talk very well. So thank you for that. We'll put you backstage and we'll come back to you later for our round table. So, as you can see, we have very complimentary talks today. And remember, if you have any questions for Georgia or Humberto or our other guests, please send them in the live chat and we will come to them later. Now, we have a little something that we want to talk to you about. So most of you who know of Kardec Group will or hopefully know about our High Five fundraising campaign. Let me just bring that up. Here we go. Yes. So this campaign, which was set up to help two groups in Brazil. Now, this campaign started last year, and it is a continuous campaign. It's not a one-off. We're doing this all the time. So your support is still very much needed. But what is this campaign? Who does it help? And how can you support it? So, Grupo Espírita in Salvador, run by Florencio and Tom, and Instituto Multidimensional in Curitiba, run by Daniel Rossi, are non-profit organizations which support their local poor communities in Brazil. Both of these groups work to provide educational and social care, food bundles, baby boxes, things like housing for people who can't really get the support from anywhere else. And, during this pandemic, the needs have still been very, very high. And of course, the resources have been very, very low. Florencio and Daniel work tirelessly to support their respective communities. And it's only right that we continue to support them too. So here at Kardec Group, we want your help. Really. Yes, you. I can see you right there. We need your help. So please, can you spare 20, 10, or even just £5? Because that's all it takes. We're talking about the cost of a pizza or cost of just a coffee and a piece of cake. It's not much. If everyone were to donate just a small amount every month, and we do have some brilliant people who are supporting us all the time. If you can just donate a small amount every month, then these two groups, they'll make sure that they can help children to be off the streets and in safe activities. They can help make sure that families can put food on their plates and people can have secure homes to live in. So, go on, just come and give us a high five. So for more information about this campaign and to see how to donate through us, please visit our High Five site, which is www.kardec.org.uk/high5. You can see it there on the screen, or to spell out HIGHFIVE, High Five. And 100% of these donations will go 100% of the donations received for this campaign will go to these two groups. We don't keep any of it. We're just here as an intermediary helping. You send your donation, we'll make sure it gets to them 100% of it. So please, please, please. And of course, if you are in Brazil, you can donate to them directly. And like I said before, thank you to everyone who has been supporting this campaign. We have raised quite a good amount of money. Both these boys are so appreciative of everything that we do to help them, of all the contributions either through us or direct to them. So please, we need your support, and thank you to everyone who is considering to support us. And yep, thank you to you out there who's just about to click on the page now. So thank you for doing that. So let's say another hello quickly to a few more people, and we've got, oh my goodness, we've got so many people, I don't think we have time to say hello to everyone. Let's see. Elza Rossi is with us. Emmanuel, we have Jasara, we have Leonore, Maria Zelia, Anna Paula. We have a couple of people called Juliana, Mohammed, Adir, Dapaz, Frederica Govea, who will be with us tomorrow, Christina Latini, Tammy Martinez. We have Sonia, who will be with us as well. Thank you for being with us. Faye Waddington is with us as well. Lolita has said hello, even though she's she's going to be with us as well. Joe Lenilda, thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to being with us to watch this event live. Right. And Sonia is just asking on the chat, how can we donate for people living in Denmark? Yes, if you're in the United States, the UK, or Europe, you can donate via us here at the High Five campaign. We can take donations either via PayPal or direct bank transfer. Just go to that website right there on the one you can see on the screen, www.kardec.org.uk/high5, and you can find all the details of how to make your donation through us. Thank you. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it's now time for our third talk. So, we will have with us now Flavio Zanetti, who will talk about an autonomous approach to life. Flavio Zanetti is graduated in engineering and sociology with a master's in international management and business and lives in Boston, USA. He is a customer experience and global services leader for a multinational telecommunications company. Flavio was programs director of the United States Spiritist Council and is currently a member of the Allan Kardec Spiritist Society of Massachusetts. He is also a member of the Spiritist Conversations podcast. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'll pass you over now to Flavio.
Hello, Adam. Hello, folks. Hope everybody's doing well. It's with great gratitude that we've accepted the invitation to spend a few minutes with this esteemed audience talking about, Spiritism, talking about the gospel, talking about the important aspects of this great body of knowledge that Spiritism is, that teaches us how to really or better conduct our lives. Once again, Adam, thanks for the invitation. And yes, thank you so much. I was going to ask the technical folks, those behind the scenes, for some help there. Folks, again, when we look at the idea of an autonomous approach to our lives, I want you to imagine a world that we would have full autonomy. Can we really control all of our lives? Can we have a say into what happens to our lives? Are we really in the driver's seat? And I know that in the UK, the driver's seat is on the right of the car. Here in the US, the driver's seat is on the left. It doesn't really matter. Are we really in the driver's seat? Can we imagine a world that everything that happens to us, we are dictating, we are leading that? Are we ever able to live in a place like this? Or does such place even exist in today's lives? When you look at the word autonomy, the word autonomy comes from the Greek, which has roots auto, that means self, and nomos, that means law or customs. So when a person seeks autonomy, he or she would like to make decisions independently, meaning without the interference of others, of the environment, and with its own set of laws and moral drivers. But when we look at laws and moral drivers, our friend Humberto mentioned Kant, this German philosopher and one of the most influential Enlightenment thinkers. Kant's comprehensive and systematic works in epistemology, ethics, metaphysics, statics have made him one of the greatest influential figures in modern Western philosophy. We've heard that. And it's impossible to talk about autonomy without really bringing Kant, because amongst his greatest works, one that's really important for us to connect the dots here is how he revolutionized philosophical ethics. Prior to Kant, for example, people sought the origin of morality was a natural order. In the ends, proper to human beings or feelings, and it's something outside of our own remit. In contrast, for example, Kant seeks the conditions, I should say, of the possibility of morality and locates them in the autonomy, in the self-governing, self-legislation or will that all of us human beings have. So once again, when we think about moral obligation, he argued that we need to account for its own character, or the fact that our morality is what commands us absolutely. So folks, ultimately, he argues that what it means to have reason and will be the autonomous or self-governing. Meaning, for us to have an autonomous life, we have to have reason. And as we learn through Spiritism, we do have reason, right? We do have this condition, as we are all intelligent beings, intelligent, creatures of the universe. We do have reason. But now I'm going to invite you to look at this picture. And I'm going to pause here for 2 or 3 seconds so you can take a good grasp on what this picture shows. Are we in control of this situation? For those who remember, some 17 years ago, in 2004, the Indian Ocean earthquake, or as we call them, the Asian tsunami or Boxing Day tsunami, occurred approximately 8 o'clock in the morning local time on December 26th. And that tsunami had an epicenter off the coast of northern Sumatra, Indonesia. If you look at this picture, this is a mosque, okay, that was completely underwater, was devastated. Nothing really was left in the mosque. That tsunami was a mega thrust earthquake that devastated over 14 countries, over 250,000 people, over 250,000 people have perished, they lost their physical lives, making it one of the deadliest natural disasters in recorded human history. When we look at this picture, we should ask ourselves, where is our autonomy? Do we have anything to do with this? Or is it everything under natural order? Some people even ask the question, where is God in all this? A lot of folks may ask, we're destined to suffer this. There's nothing we could have done that would have prevented this. And that is correct. There's nothing anybody could have done to potentially prevent this. But ultimately, when we look at this, I want to ask you the question, was this something under God's, governance? Was this something that we could create or we could control? And if I translate this, which was a natural disaster, to my own life, do I control everything that happens to my life? If I look at my difficulties right now, if I look at all the problems, all the atonements, all the suffering that is happening to me right now, can I control that? See, when folks go to a Spiritist center, they're usually looking for consolation. They're usually looking for a message of hope that's going to change their lives. And ladies and gentlemen, make no mistake, this is the beauty of Spiritism. Because as we learn through Kardec's works, as we learn to the benevolent spirits, as we learn through the literature, there's a lot of hope behind Spiritism. That really teaches us that everything that happens to our lives, there's a reason for that. But Flavio, I mean, you have no idea what I'm going through. You're correct. I don't. But for sure, unquestionably or undoubtedly, there is a reason for whatever you're going through right now, my friend. We may not know, and oftentimes we don't know why that's happening. But the question we should be asking is, what's the reason for that? What's the teaching opportunity? What's the moment that I see in this life that I can translate that to a better life in the future or a changed person for the days ahead? Flavio, let's go back to the tsunami. What was the benefit of a situation like that? Over 250,000 people have passed, a lot of destructions. We had no idea how much monetary destructions were inflicted. But I can tell you one thing. That tsunami taught us and really showed us a lot of great things. Let me give a couple of examples. There was never in world's history so much volunteering, so much people looking for ways to help, to donate, to assist, to carry out programs and projects in order to help those who are impacted by the tsunami. All that altruistic behavior really flourishes when a situation like this happens. So the teaching opportunity here for us is to look at everything that happens to our lives with an educational approach, with a teaching component behind that. Obviously, we shouldn't wait for a tsunami or for a deadly event to be altruistic, to be a moral citizen, or to be a moral-abiding citizen, as Immanuel Kant has asked us to do that, to use our morality to better dictate our lives. We shouldn't wait for that. But oftentimes, that's what it takes. One more example I'm going to share with you today. Meet Liu Wei, this young Chinese man that's sitting in front of the piano. And maybe we have some pianists in the audience. Let me ask you a question. Was it hard to learn how to play the piano? Was it easy? Probably not easy. Very hard indeed. But let's look at Liu Wei. Liu Wei lost his arms at the age of 10. He was, playing with his friends, and then he ended up touching a high voltage wire that was hanging from a pole during a hide and seek, game. He regained consciousness after 45 days of his critical condition. In the hospital, he met an armless painter, who really talked to him and gave him some coaching advice. And he got inspiration from that armless painter to do something with his toes, with his feet. So he learned how to write, he learned how to brush his teeth, he learned how to eat with his own feet. See, Liu Wei had a place in his life that he had to make a decision. He could just wait for the moment to die because he had lost his both, limbs, his arms, or he could find a way to change his future. And folks, let me share with you what Liu Wei did after that. He won 2 gold and 1 silver medal at National Swimming Championship for the Disabled back in 2002. In 2010, he won the first prize in China's Got Talent program, or TV show. He was even hired by Sony Music, where he performed in Las Vegas, Shanghai, Paris, Hong Kong, Vienna, London, Taipei, and so many other places all over the world. He's also in the Guinness World Record book for typing the most number of letters alphabetically in 1 minute. See, I work with computers every day, so I type every day. When I read his story, I go, I can type pretty fast. So I just, took a time, how many characters per minute I typed. And folks, I'm not even going to show with you because it's not even close what he could type with his own toes. With his own toes. So folks, when I look at this is a great example that we all have choices in our lives. We all have a condition that's deep inside of us to make decisions that's going to have a repercussion in our own future. And that's exactly what Kardec asked the immortal spirits in this question 851, where he asks, about fate and destiny. And the immortal spirits answered, fate only exists when applied to the choice made by us before we come down to earth. So before we incarnate, we make choices to undergo a specific trial. We make choices to undergo a specific situation. But Flavio, I don't understand. Is there the Heaven and Hell, an amazing work by Allan Kardec, has a lot of examples. A lot of those examples show spirits that come back and give us their testimonies on situations that they've gone through that have really helped them achieve moral enlightenment, moral advancement. Some of these spirits came or were born without any limb whatsoever, and they were still able to progress, because had they had limbs, they would have probably made a bad decision and go back into their own habits. So see, folks, everything that happens to us, we are in the driver's seat. Flavio, I don't understand. I don't believe that, because again, my life is very difficult. I get it. All of our lives are very difficult. We all have different kinds of trials and expiations. That's exactly what Allan Kardec talked in the Spirits book. But one thing that's important to mention from question 872 is that we are not fatally or fundamentally led into evil. No, we're not. Even the most terrible folks out there, they're not fundamentally or fatally led into evil. Their acts were not written beforehand. There's no such thing as a book that tells me that, or told me that November 20th, 9:29 Eastern, Standard Time, Flavio was going to meet with Adam, with Val, with Jordan, with Humberto, with a lot of folks. No, there's no such book, my friends. There's no such book, because guess what? We do have free will, and this capacity, this capability that really drives us forward, it's out there in our lives. But again, the question begs to be asked: do we live our fate, or do we create our destiny? In the example of Li Wei, in the other examples that I mentioned, do you really do that? And more so, what are the ways that I can really build a better destiny, that I can build a better future? What can I do, Flavio, to really change my life for the better tomorrow? That I can have more fulfilled, more joyful, happier lives in the future. My friends, I'll share with you what the spirits shared with Kardec. The opposite of having a fulfilled, joyful, and happy life is every time we attach ourselves too much to material things, we're not going to get there. But does that mean that I have to give up everything that I have? No, that's not what I'm suggesting or arguing. What I'm saying is you have to make good use of all the financial benefits that we all have, all the intellectual that we have, all of our wisdom, all of our conditions, all of our everything that we have is a gift given to us by God. So when you look at that, folks, it really gives us a different approach on how to stop what we're doing, think about our lives, think about our future, think about all the great things that I have in front of me, and not this black and white picture, not this very boring. So no, on the contrary, a very colorful, a very joyful future, one thought, one step at a time. Because this message, my friends, have already been given to us over 2,000 years ago, when Jesus said that God is going to reward us all according to our deeds. He's not going to ask us, hey, Flavio, hey, Adam, were you guys spiritists? No. He's not going to ask us, hey, where did you live? No. When we get to the spirit world, when we look at this, it's everything based on all the good things that we've done to others, all the charitable activities, all the good thoughts, all the good things that we put into practice, we put into good use to others or towards others. That's how we drive a very autonomous approach to our lives. And that's how, when we go back to the first slide, that's how we'd say, I want to go left, because I'm sure, thanks to Spiritism, thanks to the goodwill, thanks to the gospel, thanks to all the teachings that I've gotten, that's the best path for me. Thank you all, folks, for your time. May God bless you today and forever.
Thank you, Flavio, for a very, very reflective talk just then. I think we've got many things that we can be considering, and I think definitely got a couple of questions coming in. So thank you for that. I'll pop you backstage, and we'll see you in a little bit for our Q&A. Okay, so again, if you have any questions for Flavio, for Georgia, or Humberto, please put them in the live chat now. We're coming up to our last talk in just a moment, so now is your time to start sending any questions you have for them. We do have a couple of questions coming in, so it'd be great to have more questions for these guys because they've worked hard on their presentations. So we are where we're going now. We're now going to our last talk of this block, and we will be going to... This is where things stop for just one moment. Here we go. We'll be going now to... So it's time for our fourth talk, which is with Lolita Stein Johnson, who is going to be talking about support from the spirit world. Lolita has a master's in language teaching, and she is the coordinator of the Spiritist Group of Brighton and Hove and trustee and worker of the Solidarity Spiritist Society in London. Lolita lives in Hove near Brighton in the south of England. So, ladies and gentlemen, I will pass you now to Lolita for the last talk in this block.
Hello everyone. I was asked to talk about support from the spiritual world. Most of religions have some sort of belief that an ethereal being, a spiritual protector, a spiritual guide, an angel, a guardian angel is assigned to each one of us. Allan Kardec, when questioning the spirits about these beings, he asked about who they are, how are they assigned to us, and about their tasks or their task. So the answer to who this guardian angel is was that he or she is a protector, a spirit protector of a higher order. Their mission is like a parent towards us, a parent towards their children. Their task is to guide us on the path along the good deeds, is to help us, is to console us, is to sustain us on our trials, on our challenges. And I particularly always found this quite reassuring, as I am not alone on this journey. I have help. I've got this guardian angel that has been assigned to me to help me on this journey, to guide me, to console me, to help me with my trials, with my challenges. These guardian angels, or our guardian angel, is assigned to us since birth. They sometimes accompany us in the spiritual realm, and some of them are with us through several corporal existences to other incarnations. And what we must know as well is that apart from our guardian angel, we also have other spirits that watch over us. We are surrounded by spirits. We are. So these other spirits also watch over us. They see everything. They see everything we do. They know our feelings. They know what we think. They hear what we say. So these spirits that surround us can actually be good spirits or less evolved spirits. The good spirits are usually our relatives from past lives, friends, spirits that have some sort of affinity and are sympathetic towards us. They take an affectionate interest on us. The less evolved spirits, the less perfect spirits, are those that are still trapped in ignorance, in pride. They lack understanding of love. They lack understanding of God. They are driven by malice. They influence us because they are suffering and they want us to suffer as they do. Now, how do we deal with this? How can we recognize the influence of any of them in our lives? And how do we know which influence we are actually under? When we think about project, for instance, a work project, a personal project, we have many thoughts at the same time, at once. And frequently, these thoughts are not very clear. They contradict each other sometimes. They're intense. These thoughts are a combination of our own thoughts, our own ideas, and the ideas inspired from the spirits. We sometimes can get quite confused and find our minds battling in which way to go. And it's a sea of ideas. A thought is like us talking to ourselves. And although our thoughts are a kind of a mixture of our thoughts and an inspiration from the good spirits or the less perfect spirits, we must understand that a thought from the good spirits is obviously to help us. A thought inspired by a less perfect spirit actually want to hinder. So we must make correct decisions amidst all this confusion, these zillions of thoughts going through our brains. Yes, we can be influenced by either the good spirits or the less perfect spirits, but we must remember we have free will. And therefore, every decision we make is definitely ours. The decision was not taken because we were influenced by a good spirit or by a less perfect spirit. The decision was taken by ourselves, and we must take responsibility for it. In our daily lives, we can choose the way we think, the way we feel, the way we act, the way we react, the way we respond to circumstances. We might not be responsible for a circumstance, but we certainly are responsible for the way we react to that circumstance. The spirits that surround us, there are in our environment, that are always with us, they are attracted to us by the way we think, by the way we feel, by what we say, by the way we act, by the way we react. So we are responsible for our thoughts, we are responsible for our reactions, we are responsible for our feelings. So we actually either attract the good spirits or less evolved spirits through our behavior. In the same way as our guardian angel, the good spirits want the best of us. They are ready to help us, always. On the other hand, the less perfect spirits, who are also around us all the times, they're watching us, they are looking for our weaknesses, waiting for us to do something not so good. For instance, remember a time when you were feeling quite enraged, you were feeling rather angry, you were furious, you even felt a bit kind of violent. Remember that time, and also remember, what did that do to your body? How did you feel? What were your feelings? Were you tense? Were you comfortable? Were you uncomfortable? Now remember a time when you were happy, when you were feeling calm, serene, tranquil. How did that make your body feel? Did you feel relaxed? Did you feel happy, at ease, pleased? In these two examples, in these two instances, what kind of spirits do you think were attracted to you? We are not perfect beings. We still are on a journey. And this journey will certainly take a while, and sometimes we can take a second of feeling really, really calm and serene, and then something happens and you just switch in a blink of an eye, and you then, all that calm state goes away and you feel angry, irritated, enraged. It happens. I remember once when I was coming back from a lovely evening in the Spiritist Center. I had learned a lot and I was feeling really amazing, calm. Before I had gone to the study, I actually had asked my husband to do a couple of things for me because we were doing Christmas cards. And so all the way on my journey back on the train, I had this amazing feeling inside me. I was serene, I was calm, and I walked through the door and I still had this feeling. And when I looked at the table where all the Christmas cards were, I noticed that my husband hadn't done anything. And believe me, I got so irritated in a blink of an eye. I got upset. I got upset with him. I got angry with him. And while I was having this turmoil, having all these feelings, I suddenly realized, wow, in just 1 second, I actually changed my feelings. And why did I change it? because I asked him to do something. Now, who am I to determine that he really actually had to do it? It was just a request. I didn't even ask if something had happened to prevent him from doing what I had asked him to do. I just got enraged because, well, he didn't do what I asked him to do. So come on, I'm right. How come? And that is exactly what happens in our daily lives. From a blink of an eye, we can switch from one to another. And what we feel, what we think, is being watched. And in one situation and in the other situation, we attract the spirits that are connected to our feelings. We can certainly watch over our thoughts. We can watch them more closely. We can watch our feelings, our actions, our reactions, our words. We can take ownership, and by doing so, we will lessen the influence of the less perfect spirits over us. Less perfect spirits can actually learn from us. Remember, they are in conflict with themselves. They lack the belief of God. They have malice. They want us to suffer the same way that they are suffering. They're very unhappy, and they want us to be unhappy in the same way as they are. So in the same way that the good spirits watch over us, the less evolved spirits are watching too. And they want us to stumble. They want us to erupt into these horrible feelings. They want us to experience anger. They want us to make untrue comments about someone. But if we are persistent, and we behave in a loving manner towards others, if we take the time to understand our feelings, this feeling of rage that sometimes we have, if we try to understand where is this feeling actually coming from, we will be able to deal with them to a certain extent. If we learn how to refrain ourselves from making unnecessary comments, for instance, if you are among friends and someone make not such a compliment towards someone you know, sometimes you feel rather compelled to say something on the same level, but we could actually refrain ourselves. We could actually change the subject totally and talk something else, or even say something good about this person. Like I said before, we can actually understand our thoughts. The way we think about something, about someone, about situation, we can change that. If we have sad feelings, if we suddenly become very worried about something, we can actually try and think positive about this specific situation. If we, instead of being angry towards someone, if we take our time to actually understand where this anger comes from, why exactly has this person upset me so much? What is it that this person said that actually makes me feel like this? Is it because of my pride? Is it because he or she pointed out something wrong? Is it because they are challenging what I am saying and I think I am totally correct? But if I take a time and to actually listen to what the person has got to say, I might actually learn from this person. I might actually learn from it. Our behavior, our thoughts, what we say, what we think, the way we act, the way we react determines what kind of spirits are attracted to us. Now, we are amazing beings. We are here to learn. We can think. We desire. And that is what makes us so special, so unique.
Thank you so much, Lolita, for that remarkably wonderful talk. A lot of reflections. I think there's a lot of reflections. So we hope that everyone can send their questions through. We've now had our 4 talks from Lolita, Flavio, Georgia, and Humberto. If you have any questions for them at all, please send them now during the chat. Now is your time to put in questions to them about their talks. Just type away in the live chat, right there. Maybe just on the right hand side, or maybe just below. Don't be shy. Just send any questions through. It's not a problem. So we now have time. We have the time now for our prize draw. Ooh, drum roll, please. So, as people should know already, let me bring up. As people should know already, anyone who registered for this event and selected the option to be entered into the prize draw to win a bundle of Spiritist books, you should know that you need to be watching live with us. So we are going to spin the wheel and choose a name at random. If your name is selected, please respond in the chat, in the live chat. Otherwise, we will choose a different name. So let's bring up the little spinning wheel now. So drum roll, please. And the first winner is Rafaela. If you are watching us, please let us know via the private chat, via the live chat. Rafaela, please let us know via the live chat if you are watching with us. If you do not let us know in the next few minutes, then we will choose another name. Okay, so Rafaela Busto, please let us know if you are watching with us. Okay, I'll leave that on screen just for another moment or so. And where are we going next? We are now going to, a musical interlude. So we have a great piece of music to share with you now, and it is called Lullaby for Milan, and it is composed and performed by Thomas Gregory, who is a composer, cellist, and conductor, who's also created a method for learning to play instruments called Vamouche. So please sit back and relax for the next few moments. And also remember to send us your questions for the round table. And Rafaela, if you are watching live with us, please say hello, otherwise we will choose a new name. So, ladies and gentlemen, Lullaby for Milan by Thomas Gregory. Okay, we hope you enjoyed that piece of music, and again, thank you so much to Thomas Gregory for allowing us to play that wonderful piece of music. We're going to have to spin the wheel again to find a different winner for the bundle of Spiritist books. So let's bring up the little spinner once more, and another drum roll, and click the wheel. Where will it stop? Who will be chosen this time? Geron Dronkers! I don't believe it. Mr. Dronkers, if you're watching for the third time, third event in a row, third time, you have won a bundle of Spiritist books. If you're willing for us to spin the wheel again, because you keep winning. What is with you? Come on. So, Mr. Geron Dronkers, if you are watching with us, please send a message in the live chat. Otherwise, we will need to choose another name. Of course, we would love for you to win, but we'd love for someone else to win for once in a while. So I knew this would happen. I knew this would happen. Okay, so Jérôme, again, if you're watching live, please just let us know in the chat, and you are a winner of a bundle of Spiritist books. Oh, yeah, we have a confirmation. He is watching live with us. So well done, Geron Dronkers. You are the proud winner of yet another bundle of Spiritist books. I think we're going to have to ban you from next time from entering your name, okay? Just joking, of course. We're happy for everyone to enter all the time. So well done to Geron. Right. I'm glad we got there in the end. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a new and very important fundraising campaign that we are officially launching today. This is something that Kardec Group is supporting. It is not our campaign directly, but it is something that we as a group are actually supporting. So I'm going to bring up a short message. Here we go. So I want to play for you now a short message from Gelson Luiz Roberto, who is coordinator of the Center for Spiritism and Psychology of the Brazilian Medical Spiritist Association, AMI Brazil, and he'll explain what this campaign is. My friends, it's with great joy that we announce at this moment a joint effort of the whole Spiritist movement in favour of the translation of the works of the psychological series of Joanna de Angelis into English. This is a campaign that we, from the Centre for Psychology and Spiritism of AMI Brazil, are conducting so that the benefactor's work may be translated by native English speakers and have the depth and seriousness it needs, as it is extremely complex material which requires a lot of care to be translated. We count on everyone for this campaign so that not only the benefactor's work, but other books related to the psychological series can reach as many people outside of Brazil as possible. We count on everyone. A big hug, and may the divine light bless us in this project. Okay, so there we go. We have that message from Gelson there, and it is this. It is the Joanna de Angelis translation project. There we go. That's better now. You can see it a bit more. So the request is please donate towards new English editions of the psychological series by Joanna de Angelis and other books related to the series, and help bring the benefactor's teachings to thousands of people around the world. Now, this is an official campaign by the Brazilian Spiritist Medical Association, Mansão do Caminho, Centro Espírita Caminho da Redenção, and Liel, with support by Kardec Group. And obviously, anyone who's ever studied the works of Joanna de Angelis will know that they are quite complex. And so that's one reason why this project has been set up. Now, to make a donation, you just need to go to www.kardec.org.uk/Joanna, and that's Joanna, 2 N's in there for Joanna. And on that page, you will find the posters that I just displayed, both in English and in Portuguese, as well as the PayPal donation buttons for donating in British pounds, Brazilian reais, US dollars, and euros. And you can donate any amount that you want. All donations are very, very welcome because this is a very big project, and 100% of anything donated to this project will be spent only on this work itself. So just to repeat that website address again, it is www.kardec.org.uk/Joanna. So we hope that everyone is able to help with this. It is a big task. Like we said, it is an official campaign by AMI Brazil, the Brazilian Medical Spiritist Association, Mansão do Caminho, Caminho Espírita, so Centro Espírita, Caminho da Redenção, and Editora Leal. This is an official campaign by them. Kardec Group is supporting this campaign. So, it is now time, finally, for our round table. So, let's see. Oh, before that, we actually need to say a few more hellos to some people. So I'll give you just another moment to send any questions you have. But let's give a final hello to, where are we going? To Natalia, Andrea, Inlet Watcher, Joe Jocko, Jackson, Rita, Elizabeth Stevenson, thank you for being with us, Erica, Claudia, Rosa, Tiago, and Jeniana. Thank you so much to all you guys and everyone else who's been watching with us today. We've had people from Florida, Denmark, Brazil, Istanbul, France, from all over Brazil, from New York, from Norway, from London, from Oxford, from, well, many places around the world. So thank you everyone for being with us. Right, enough of me. It's now time to bring back on our wonderful guests. So, ladies and gentlemen, yep, there we go. Let's bring back on our esteemed colleagues today. So let's bring on Humberto Schubert. Let's bring on Georgia Byrne. Let's bring on Lolita Stein Johnson and Flavio Zanetti. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again for being with us. Now, we do have a couple of questions, and everything that you guys talked about today has already given us so many reflections. So let's get straight on. There we go. Now we can see your faces so much better. Okay, so the first question that we're going to go to, so anyone can really answer this, but it's initially addressed to Humberto. Do you believe that in the future, the common belief of an afterlife by other religions, doctrines, and philosophies will integrate into Spiritism?
Well, very good question. It is hard to speak about the future. Everything can possibly happen, but we can imagine that the consistency among religions and spiritual traditions and spiritualistic philosophies, which is already very strong, will improve as we have better insight on the phenomena. As we can see in the other questions too, some spiritual phenomena that Spiritism so intensely tries to explain, they are universal and they are not exclusive for Spiritists, or they do not happen because or related to some sort of belief or doctrine. They are natural phenomena that have to be explained in this fashion. from a naturalistic perspective. The thing is that nowadays we have the common myth about a conflict between science and religion. It was a myth developed by materialists in the end of the 19th century, the beginning of the 20th century. And according to this myth, science is opposed to religion somehow. And in order to sustain this myth, people who advocate it have to emphasize or to add that religions are purely cultural inventions. So they are products of the Arabic Peninsula or of Judea or China or India in a very specific context, while in fact the very strong similarities between religions show us that the basic phenomena, the basic experiences that led to these doctrines, to this materialization or this objectification in doctrines and rituals and institutions, these basic experiences are quite similar, and we should and have in this moment of our history to emphasize that similarity.
Yeah, of course, experience is what it's all about. A lot of these things are created because of experience, like you're saying. Well, thank you for those thoughts. Let's go now to a question for Georgia. Georgia, how can Spiritists help to demystify the doctrine? And just to say, here at Kardec Group, we have no problem in saying the word doctrine. It does mean a body of knowledge. Some people get frightened of the word doctrine, but how can we help to demystify the doctrine of Spiritism?
Good question. I think the antidote for any mysticism is understanding, and we can only understand if we study. So for us to understand any doctrine, we need to go through knowing what it means. And when we go through knowing what it means, we know there is no mysticism about Spiritism. So the best way for us Spiritists to help demystify Spiritism is embrace it and learn it and know what we are talking about and live what we are talking about. And by doing so, it will be our own experiences that will tell, they will be a living proof of what Spiritism is. So we can't expect someone else to come to tell other people what Spiritism is. We need to know what it means for us. And by living it, we will be telling the other people what Spiritism is. And it's this amazing spiritualist philosophy, this doctrine that can free our minds and can give so much hope and consolation. So yes, study, understand, practice. It's not easy, but it's our necessary effort. I hope I managed to somehow answer.
I think if anything was easy in life, why would we need to be here? Why do we need to go through all the different experiences? So again, you said another key word, experience. It's all about experience. We can only really understand something if we experience it. Great. So Flavio, we have a question here from Claudia for you. If we don't limit our view towards our existence to this life only, it gets easier to understand that the events in our lives are not random, but the result of our own previous actions and choices. As a result, we can take the wheel of our future events as well. Flavio, is that correct?
if we don't understand the reality of reincarnation, it makes very difficult to build a case around justice or divine justice. It's very difficult to build a case around us controlling our future, because if I look at my life from the cradle to the grave, it's only a very small speck of my life, that this life right here, that I'm not taking into consideration all my previous ones, all my experience, all the things that I've done in the past, in order to really justify some of the things that are happening to me right now. As we learn through Spiritism, there are only two causes of all of our afflictions, either current or previous ones, meaning all the difficulties that we're going through right now, we are the drivers of those difficulties. We were, in a past existence or in a past situation, certain behaviors, certain conditions that we've applied that led us to be in this situation right here. But what I wanted to bring us to a thought, folks, is oftentimes we look at our current life as, oh, this is a challenge, this is a tournament, this is a trial. But once we learn through Spiritism that everything happens for a reason, and there is a particular teaching opportunity in that situation, our minds change. There's a paradigm shift. The most unbearable situations or circumstances, let us remember Jesus, who said that love can really cover a multitude of sin.
Yeah, absolutely. And their love is a core thing throughout so many cultures and societies and religions and dogmas for thousands of years. So yeah, love goes a long way, goes a very long way. Let's now go to a question for Lolita. Seems like a simple question, but I don't know if the answer is going to be that easy. Can we ask for help? And if so, how can we ask for help?
Our guardian angels are always with us. He is there to help us. He is there to sustain us in our difficulties. And all we have to do is actually quiet our minds and pray. And a pray doesn't have to be a repetitive words. It has to come from the heart. It has to be sincere. And it has to just ask the question, what sort of help do you really want? He is there. If you believe and if you sense that the guardian angel is with you, he's there to help and he will answer. But the problem is for us to see the answer, to listen to the answer. That is difficult because our minds are so busy. And we normally tend to concentrate on our problems and our difficulties. And like Flavio was saying, sometimes those difficulties, if not most of the time, they are in our lives to learn, for us to learn through our difficulties. If we don't quiet our minds, if we don't open our hearts, and if we don't quiet down, and like I said, remember what you think, that's the way you get influenced by either sides of the spirits. So if you want help, just do it with your heart. Ask for it. The guardian angel is there. It's beside you. He is there. If you can't see it and if you don't listen, it's because you're not open to it. So open your heart to it and you will see the answer. You'll receive it. I promise you.
And when I said that
experience.
And when I said that I think the answer may not be that simple, is because I think putting that into practice is where many people have difficulties.
Sorry, Adam. The other thing is it might not be the answer that you actually expecting. So it's all of that to take into account.
Yeah, absolutely. So So I'm just being pinged here about a question which I'm not sure exactly which one I'm being requested to read out. So I'm going to actually go to you guys. Do you have any questions for each other? Because it's always fun to know what each one wants to ask each other about their talks.
I do have a question for Flavio, please. We talk about this autonomous approach and how we can apply it to our lives. So what's your view on how we can better apply this approach at the moment we are experiencing a situation when we are feeling deep suffering, where it's much more difficult for us to rationalize about things? What's your view on that, Flavio, please?
Yeah, thank you, Georgia. I think if we're going through a very difficult situation, we're not going to stop to reflect, to look at, to understand. No, we need help. We need cuddling. We need food. We need, something that can support us move away from that situation. The whole support group that we have within our Spiritist centers, Lolita mentioned about prayer. That's an amazing resource. It's an amazing tool within our toolbox that we have to use absolutely all the time. I like to joke, and folks that have heard me before, I've always said that I love praying in the shower because I'm a lousy singer. And what else can you do in a shower but, just pray? So that's a great opportunity for us to really reflect upon our own selves during a moment of, ourselves by ourselves. So I think folks forget about the power of prayer. We forget about the power of our guardian angels who are always by our side, and trust the divine providence that the future will be better. But make no mistake, we have to do our own parts, right? We have to do our own work. The work is up to us to move ourselves from that situation. And if we can't, let's look at the resources that are out there for us, the Spiritist centers, the support groups, the medical doctors that are there to help us if we have some physical diseases, right? These obsession therapies and fraternal counseling, all these therapies that we have within our Spiritist centers, I'm sure they're, in your Spiritist centers, whichever one you participate, those therapies are there. Let's use them. Let's take advantage of those situations to really get us a little more centered in the situation at hand so we can really progress towards a better future. Hope that helps, Georgia.
Thank you, Flavio.
No, absolutely. And I think especially during this pandemic, more people have been reaching out to spiritualistic organizations, trying to get in touch with that spiritual side. So yes, we do hope that more people are to take the plunge, as it were, to contact their nearest Spiritist center wherever they are around the world. We have time for just 2 more questions. So we have a question here, and I think it's going to go to Humberto. I don't understand. So it's from Zainab. I don't understand the concept of perispirit. Can it be explained further?
Well, very, very good question, because it gives us the possibility to show that it is not a random belief or something that only Spiritism talks about. It actually has much to do with what I said about Aristotle. Aristotle believed that we cannot have completely disembodied lives, because to have a life means to have feelings, to have senses, and to feel something through some sort of mean. And the means to feeling and to experiencing and to acting is more or less material. So, but this is philosophy, and people still think that philosophy is about abstract ideas. But in practice, no culture speaks about or consider the spirits and the souls completely disembodied. In apparitions of the Virgin Mary or the saints in Catholic thought, in Catholic experience, or in shamanism, or in the Buddhistic apparitions of the Avalokitesvaras and the Bodhisattvas, and in Hindu apparitions of saints, avatars, and so on, the entities always have faces, voices, and we experience a contact with a person and not an abstract entity. So it is just based on the human experience and the human spiritual experience. And because of that, Spiritism talks about what could it possibly be, this intermediary substance or astral body, whatever we may want to call it, just corresponds to what all cultures and spiritual traditions recognize as the faces and the figures of the deceased.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, there's so many cultures, so many religions that believe in this astral body, this aura, this other essence as to who we are. And so Zainab, we hope that that's helped to explain it a little bit. If not, we'll be more than happy to help investigate a little bit more with you. So feel free to contact us here at Kardec Group, and we'd be happy to help out. So we'll have just one last very quick question. Let's see which one we're going to go to. We're going to go to this one, and this is mainly for Flavio, but I think could be for anyone who wants to answer. People who are going through challenges, from natural disasters to something out of their control, how can Spiritism support that? What can we say to these people? You're on mute, Flavio.
Sorry about that. I think I have to be very careful when we want to say something to those folks, because when somebody goes through a difficult situation like a tsunami or a natural disaster, that person is in distress, right? That person is in really real pain. We just can say, I'm sorry, but yeah, hey, this was something happened back then. No, right? Because we have to have a loving voice that can really show the love that our Creator has for all of us and say, my friend, things will get better, right? As we learn through Spiritism, things will get better. Let me help you. Let's find the help that you need right now, being shelter, being food, being clothing, whatever it is that we can do to help, right? And then after that, we can really start to help in a different way. Because as I mentioned before, when we are hungry, we don't want to study, we want to eat, right? I mean, that's Maslow, that's a pyramid of needs. I mean, we have to suffice the needs that are the most dire needs at that moment. So unfortunately, a lot of folks, they try to indoctrinate, they try to bring the gospel and evangelize during those moments. But at the end of the day, people just need to be helped, right? When they go through these situations. I think we have to put our humans back into our own humans and be humans again, assisting a brother or a sister that's going through a difficulty. And that after, if we have the opportunity, share some of the knowledge, share some of the teaching, some of the snippets that we learn through our lives around Spiritism, around how it really changes and transforms our lives to see the world with a different set of eyes.
Thank you. Any other thoughts from anyone else about that question?
May I just add something to that? There is a saying, I may not be able to translate it correctly, but there are moments when it is insufficient to be the word of God, to be the voice of God. We need to be the hand of God. So I think it is what Flavio is
Exactly.
talking about.
Yeah.
We have many ways to be useful, many ways to act. And sometimes what we should do is something more objective and material.
Yeah, absolutely. When people are in a position of shock, of distress, they just need someone to listen to them, to hold their hand and say, it will be okay.
100%.
Adam, I was going to say exactly like that, because especially during the pandemic, we felt so isolated, and so many people, all they wanted to hear is someone to talk to them and someone to give them a little bit of comfort in some way. In the same way in our lives, like some of us said today, when we go through a difficult time, when we go through an illness, for instance, when you go through an illness, all you want is the pain to go away, and have the comfort of someone. During the pandemic, when you are in the hospital, you don't get that comfort because some of the hospitals don't allow you to receive any visits, for instance. And that personal comfort that you long so much, sometimes when you go to these difficulties, that's all you want. And like you said, if you're hungry, you want to eat, not anything else. But is that comfort that someone to be beside you, so that you know that you're not alone? Sometimes that's a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we need to wrap up. So does anyone have any last thoughts and considerations before we end? No. In that case, it gives me great sadness, in fact, to have to say thank you to Humberto, to Georgia, to Flavio and Lolita for everything that you've brought to us today. I'll pop you backstage and I'll talk to you in just a few moments when we finish. So let's say goodbye to Flavio, to Humberto, to Georgia and to Lolita. Oh dear. And that means that it's time for us to say goodbye to all of you out there who's been with us as well. So we've had various people who've been with us today. We've had various people watching live, and of course this is only block one of this event. We have coming up in a very short amount of time, in just under 1 hour from now, gosh, we will be back at 4:30 GMT. It's 3:32 right now, so we'll be back in just under 50 minutes from now for block 2 of Spiritism X, which will be with Charles, Sonia and Anne. So please be safe, take care, and I'll see you very, very soon. Thank you very much.